All right, welcome back. Episode 192 of Chaotically Intolerant. It is, NFL postseason. We got the wild card, super wild card weekend. I don't care what anyone else says. It's still super wild card weekend. I know the NFL is trying to phase that out. That is just disgusting. You got 6 games on wild card weekend. That's pretty super to me. We're going to talk all the games. We're going to talk Mike McCarthy getting canned. And then we're going to pick the divisional round games where the playoffs really start. Let's be honest. We also have Joshuel joining us from the Four Downs podcast over at the Spring Hill Sports Card YouTube channel. They are under Chaotically Intolerant. We're going to be having a lot of guests. Next week, we're going to have Griffin Prock. The episode's going to drop on Thursday. He's coming back on the show. But before that, or so you can get all the notifications when our content comes out, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let's go. All right, we got Joshuel from the Kamblumski Sports Show. Go check him out on the Four Downs show as well.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Joshuel, give me your favorite game from the weekend. Let's start. I want to start there.
From the weekend.
Because the Monday was horrible. That was a horrible game.
As a Bucks fan, I feel like I it's kind of like a given that I want to say my game, but at the same time, I feel like our game was the most competitive game. In my opinion, I mean, granted, there were some other close games, but I felt like a lot of games just were out of reach early, or you seemed like, what the outcome was going to be. I felt like our game was obviously down to the wire, and it was just a lot of back and forth and just intriguing to watch as a fan in general.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Commanders Bucks was probably the best one of the weekend. I would assume, Mike, you agree as well. That was the most enjoyable game of the weekend.
Yeah, home teams were 5-1 overall, so it was actually nice to see a road team win, and came down to the end of the game. That really felt like the only game where you weren't sure by late in the fourth quarter who was going to win it. So yeah, that seems like an easy answer. I'd go Commanders Bucks.
Can I say something though, real quick? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
As a hater, I want to say the Vikings game was my favorite too. Just to shut everybody up that thought that Sam Darnold was all this and that. I don't know. Let's get that over with. I'm sorry.
I think that was, well, you know what? We'll get into it before or after we talk about Mike McCarthy getting canned. Well, not even canned, right. Just because they couldn't reach a new contract. I think the Dallas Cowboys job is one of the least appealing jobs in football at this point. It's a joke, the America's team thing. Like, it's a complete joke. It's probably like insulting to some Cowboys players when you say that,
right.
Because they're not even close to America's team. The Houston Texans have more playoff wins than the Dallas Cowboys in the last 20 years. That's not good.
Think about that.
And they play on Saturday at 3:30 every single year. So not good, man. It's not good. If I'm a head coach, I think Dallas or New Orleans are my two last spots. Those are the last desperate. Man, I can't get anyone else to hire me. Fuck. Oh, I guess I'll go to Dallas. Fuck. I guess I'll go to New Orleans.
Right. I think that obviously ownership plays a factor in that, right? Another team that kind of lucked out in a way was the Patriots. I felt like if you go there, I felt like Kraft had a certain way that he wanted the program to be run or the organization to be run. So that head coach had to definitely know him from the past or have some type of feel from him. And I think that's why Vrabel was the best fit for that situation. But it wasn't appealing to me to begin with, though, in my opinion.
Dallas is just I feel like they've never gotten the coach they really want, right? I feel like they wanted to get Bill Belichick. They wanted to get Sean Payton before. It's always like, I don't know. I don't know if it's just that the coaches that they've hired are just not the right guys. Yeah. or it's, how much of it is Jerry Jones. A lot of it's Jerry Jones. Right. It's just, and a lot of it becomes cultural. It becomes a cultural thing too. Right. A lot of people speculated that the Cowboys are kind of so much glitz and glamour that it really takes away from sort of developing that grit and that toughness. I mean, but like they had Bill Parcells, and they had a couple of good seasons there, and he was only there, I think, 3 years, and then Wade Phillips gets them to 13-3 back in 07. It's like they've had moments, but they've just never been able to sustain that.
If you look at the tangibles, I think in Dallas too, you have a 32-year-old Dak coming back off a second like major injury, or is that his second or third season-ending injury?
Second
It's probably
for sure. Second for sure.
Second for sure. I know he broke his. Either way,
Right,
you have a
but-
32-year-old Dak coming in. Your offensive line, it was lackluster in comparison to the past few years. CeeDee Lamb is like, I think CeeDee and maybe there's a few guys on the defense that are really the only appealing pieces. Micah Parsons, of course, and Micah Parsons, you got to deal with him in the media. So
Exactly.
yeah, I think there's a few other possibly. Well, I guess Mike Tomlin is not leaving Pittsburgh. I feel like Pittsburgh would have been the more appealing job. And if you go to Dallas, you got to pretend to be Jerry Jones' best friend, and that's just awful. You got to talk. You got to have dinner with the guy like every Sunday night especially after a bad loss. He's gonna be like, why did you do that, buddy? Like, why'd you lose?
He looks like he
What are you
stinks
supposed
too.
to-
Like he looks like he's like that old man stinky. Like, I'm sorry, I just had to throw that out there. Just
He's got to turn it over to his daughter. It's getting to the point. It's the same thing with Jim Irsay. You saw it in Detroit when they turned it over to the daughter. The daughter turned it on. Indianapolis and Dallas need to turn it over to the daughters. It's the time. It's girl time in Indianapolis and Dallas. I think it is. I mean, the guys are not getting it done anymore.
You know, I'll say this: you look back at some of the defensive coordinators that the Cowboys have had in recent years.
Right.
Guys like Mike, Dan Quinn. They've had some good defensive coaches. You look at the offensive coordinators they've had: Brian Schottenheimer, Kellen Moore, Scott Linehan, Bill Callahan, Jason Garrett. These are guys that either never have become head coaches or did not succeed as head coaches. So maybe there's something to that too. Having, imagine you had a Ben Johnson as an offensive coordinator. Does that make Dak Prescott better? Does that change things in Dallas? I don't know. Just speculating though, looking at some of the names of the coordinators they've had.
So what names jump out to you guys in that position? Sorry, I'm just throwing out a question.
Who's going to Dallas?
Yeah,
Who's going to Dallas?
What kind of names do you throw out there? Like, what do you feel like is the best fit for Jerry Jones' organization and in that culture? That
A yes man.
That fan base is like hungry, right? I mean, what person is going to be that puppet for them?
A yes man.
Right.
Whoever is going to say yes to Jerry. Whoever will walk in and agree with what Jerry says. Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen is afraid he's unemployed.
Man,
What's kind of wild to me is that it seems like there's a lot of mediocre or bad in Dallas. They've only had 4 head coaches over the last 22 seasons.
Yeah.
Right. They've had, going back to Parcells, who was there for 4 years. Wade Phillips was there for 4 years, or part of 4 years. Jason Garrett, 10 years, and McCarthy 5. So they've kind of gone, and McCarthy and Phillips and Parcells are good examples that they've kind of gone to the old guard. They've been kind of resistant to bring in kind of the new hot young coach. Even Garrett had been kind of in the coaching ranks, and he had familiarity. And it was kind of the same thing for, you guys probably don't remember, the Dave Campo coach there for 3 straight 5-11 seasons in 2000 through 2002. So I've never seen the Cowboys kind of take this leap of faith with a young, Sean McVay or a Ben Johnson, let's say. And my guess is, like you guys just speculated, maybe because those guys are not going to be Jerry Jones yes men. They're going to put too much of their own stamp on the Dallas Cowboys, and he don't want that.
Dion. Which Dion, is Dion's not a yes man. He's not gonna agree with Jerry Jones. They're gonna hate each other after 2 months.
But he also sort of personifies the flash, blitz. I'm not saying that he couldn't be a good coach. I'm just saying he brings that in as a guy that's never coached in the NFL.
And you know what?
No, I think Dion can be a great NFL coach. I think he can relate to NFL players a lot more than I think he relates to college kids. And look at what he's done. I mean, the amount of hate that Dion gets, look at what he's done in Colorado.
And still gets
They won 2 games 2 years ago, and they were in a bowl game this year.
Right.
They were good, and they're making money. That's what they wanted, and that's what they got. And you're just, I mean, the court of public opinion is not giving Dion even a sliver of an opportunity to get this done. Though if he does leave, I think it will be a little shitty. Like you go in, You say I'm going to build up the Colorado Buffaloes, and then as
I
soon as
agree.
your kid and Travis Hunter leave, you're like, all right, I'm out, I'm gone. You gotta. I think there should be some sort of loyalty here.
100%.
That I might say it's a little shitty, but he's a good fucking. He's been a good coach. He's a good recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's a bit. I do want to see. That just made me think of Bill Belichick having to go recruit. Apparently, he's going boots on the ground at North Carolina.
Oh gosh.
Even with Brady trying to recruit him to Vegas, he's going boots on the ground. I'd love to see Bill sitting in a kid's living room, like, listen, you are you gonna fucking play?
Right.
Like, just pick yes or no. I don't give a fuck.
Quinn Ewers is going over there anyway.
He's yeah. Quinn Ewers might have a tough time finding a spot. And then Braves going to New England. That felt like a lock. Robert Kraft has not had. He's only had 1 year of control of his organization because Mike Vrabel is going to take control of his organization after Bill Belichick had 20 years of control.
Right.
We'll spend like a minute. Josh, what's your thoughts on that? We'll spend a minute or two on that, and then we'll move on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If there was a perfect fit in the NFL, if there was a such position and a such that was like the Cinderella and the glass shoe. That was a perfect fit, right? At least that's what I want to assume and presume. I guess I think that he's a leader of men. Being especially on the defensive side of the ball. No offense to my offensive players out there, but defensive-minded people think a little bit differently. They know how to get the next man to get on their level type, speed, and I think he's going to take full advantage of this dream job for him, in my opinion.
I think that's, they go from one expatriate linebacker to another, but they go with a guy who has 6 years of head coaching experience after going with a complete unknown. I think Vrabel's a proven. I really liked him in Tennessee. I thought it was a shame that they didn't keep him. So
right.
If they can't succeed with him, they're suddenly going to become we'll just forget the 20 years they had with Brady. Really
no, they'll like start sending clones of Brady out there, just to be like, remember what we were. Don't pay attention to what's on the field right now. They might just do like a big screen around the field of just old Brady Patriots games and just show that and say, no, this is what's going on, not what's on the other side of the screen.
That's brutal.
Yeah, Patriots. I love the hire. I mean, Mike Vrabel. I was a little down on him, because his offense in Tennessee, you really relied a lot on Derrick Henry, which, I mean, you can't really blame him. But he would get vanilla, and that was kind of his issue in the playoffs, where his offenses would get vanilla, they don't get creative, and you come up short against opponents such as the Chiefs, who are a lot more creative and have a lot more firepower on offense.
I got one little take. I'm sorry, real quick. I think an X factor too in this whole situation is how they're going to play in the draft. I think what they do in the draft and how they play that is going to play a big factor moving forward with this new regime with Vrabel, head coach.
And maybe Josh McDaniels is the guy they bring in to help.
Nice.
Fucking Josh McDaniels, man. Nice. All right, let's go to Texans Chargers. The Chargers, they charger. That's it's inevitable. Dread it, run from it. The chargering will always come, and it happened again. Some people are saying this wasn't chargering, but I still think it was. They went up 6-0, and then immediately it was over. They were down 10-6 at halftime. It was in their hands, and then they got blown out. But Justin Herbert, 4 interceptions in this game, 3 on the entire season. So really not good. Not good at all. I don't really know where. I mean, you can't go anywhere from here, right? Like I would say this is a positive year overall. You had a good year from Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert was definitely better, but it's still the big game. Like this is the second time we've seen Justin Herbert's Chargers just absolutely stumble in the second half of a playoff game, and it was ugly. I don't want to label him with that moniker of can't win the big game. I mean, he's still young. Yeah. He's 5 years in. He's still young. Give the kid a chance. But this wasn't good. This was not good.
No, I think too that we gotta understand. I think 2 of those interceptions were I mean, right through the hands of the receivers. I hate that that stat is against the quarterback. Just throwing that out there. So, but as far as their future is concerned, you think about it, that's year one under Harbaugh. You just got to give this man his flowers, right? I mean, everywhere he goes, he kind of wins. I mean, not kind of win. How do you kind of win? But he just succeeds, and he's another one, leader of men. He's one that is going to get the best out of you. Your top receiver was a rookie. Lad McConkey is very, very, very mobile. Bright future on his behalf. And then your running backs. Hey, J.K. Dobbins did not get hurt, man. That's a plus in itself. I was rooting for him just as a fan of his story and their running game. Roman knows what he's doing. It's a culture, and they're all buying in over there. I think they hold their heads up high and they move forward from here.
So a bunch of quick little takeaways for me from this game. Okay, first of all, the Rams are the savior of LA. Nobody talked about the Chargers as lifting up the spirits of LA. So I don't know where that was. My take on it
Nobody
was,
expected them
maybe
to.
the Chargers were the ones who were distracted by, what happened there this week. They had to play also on 2 days less time to prepare for it, in fairness, than the Rams. This game changed on 2 plays in the second quarter. The intentional grounding that should have been called on C.J. Stroud wasn't. And then the 3rd and 18 or whatever it was where he picks up the ball. The Texans, to me, have a very fragile ego. When things were not good, they were falling flat on their face, right? When Tank Dell got hurt against Kansas City, they completely, the wind was out of their sails completely in that game. The wind was out of their sails until that play. They picked it up and said, hey, we're actually okay. So they had this fragile confidence, and then they were off and running in this game. Scorigami, by the way, shout out to a 32-12.
Shocker that 32-12 is a scorigami.
First defensive 2-point conversion in playoff history. The Chargers had 2 catches from wide receivers not named Lad McConkey in this game. So you put 4 interceptions on Herbert, but when you have your other wide receivers catch a grand total of 2 passes, you're not going to win. The Texans are really good in their history in the wild card round. Actually, they're 6-2. They're 6-2 all time in this round. They're 4-5 in the division round, but they're 6-2. So my takeaway was, the Chargers, I think they're going to be okay. I think Jim Harbaugh gives them a lot of credibility. I was a little surprised just how flat on their face they fell. It was like the whole game was like this, the post 27-0 against Jacksonville, right? Because in that game, I guess they were outscored like, I don't know what, I can't remember what the final score was, but like 31-3 or something after that, and then they get blown there. So not good for them. But
the dirty bubble carried John Harbaugh away, and they were outscored 32-6 in this game. On the Nickelodeon broadcast, the dirty bubble only carried John Harbaugh away. And that was it. Or Jim Harbaugh. I think the one guy that the Kansas City Chiefs are really going to hone in on this week in preparation is not C.J. Stroud. It's Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
If Joe Mixon gets moving, I think they're going to find it difficult to win this football game. Mixon 106 and a score. He also had basically the clincher, the official clinching touchdown at the end of the game. They gave him the football. I think they gave it to him 13 times on that final touchdown drive. Of 14 plays, they gave it to him 13 times. They rode him to a win. And Joe Mixon, when he's working the offense, I think there's a lot more confidence there. And when he struggles, I think, again, that confidence, the fragile ego is more attached to Joe Mixon than anything else.
And Joe Mixon is a part of the last team to eliminate the Chiefs from the postseason. He had the run, set up the winning field goal in the 21 AFC Championship game. I think he's got to hone in on Nico Collins, right? Because now with Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs out, Collins is going to be the guy. And Jalen Watson is coming back most likely for the Chiefs, which is huge. And you got your CB1 2 with Watson and Trent McDuffie to match up on Nico Collins, because who else really is a big threat receiving wise? It's kind of the same thing on both sides, where the number one receivers were huge in this game, but you didn't get much from the other guys, right? Hutchinson had 1 catch, G 4 for 28, Woods 2 for 4. So again, the Texans have got to rely on their star power to win.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on this one, or do we want to move?
Real quick, DeMarco Ryan, he's the man over there at coaching over that. What he had to deal with as far as the injuries and stuff like that, he's been just lights out and just a great job what he's doing over there in Houston. Just want to throw that out there.
Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Michael, I will let you
Ooh.
get your thoughts off first, but I will say the Pittsburgh Steelers have gone 10-7 and lost by 14 in the wild card round in back-to-back seasons. So,
Right. And this
Groundhog Day in Pittsburgh.
This whole season was very similar to 2020 when the Steelers looked like, they were 11-0 that year and ended up 12-5 with the playoff loss. This was the formula the Ravens were going to use in this game. There was not a lot of a need to mess around with, especially with Zay Flowers out. Now, if Zay Flowers doesn't come back this week, it's going to be a much different story because the passing game is going to have to open up somewhat against Buffalo in a way that it didn't against Pittsburgh. They ran the ball well. I thought Lamar was on point as he needed to be. The Ravens, they got comfortably in control. Then they somehow let Pittsburgh go 98 yards for a touchdown. And then it got, within 14 again. And it was like, oh, we're really going to have to do this on a night where they out first down them 29-11 and outgained them by almost 200 yards. It was kind of typical of what we've seen with the Ravens. They generally win easy. We don't see them in a lot of these kind of Chiefs-esque games. But now their road to the Super Bowl gets really real. Okay, now Pittsburgh's out of the way, no problem. Hey, it was great. It was the first Steelers-Ravens playoff meeting in Baltimore. Happy that went the Ravens' way. But now, if you're going to get to the Super Bowl, at Buffalo and very likely at Kansas City. So talking about earning your flowers, right? Mm-hmm. This is intended. They need flowers to earn their flowers, but there
you go.
It was just kind of I thought it was kind of just on par with what the Ravens have done. There was nothing that stood out and said, oh yeah, now I really believe in the Ravens.
Right.
They got to run the ball. They got to be efficient in their pass, and they got to not beat themselves.
Right.
Which they were good with that. They only had 3 for 14 yards.
I got a few takeaways from this game. First on the Pittsburgh side of the ball. Very interesting. What was it, 4 or 5 straight losses to end the season? 5. Yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow. Obviously that's everybody's gonna talk about the head coach and want to bring them down, but Tomlin is damn near a god up there in Pittsburgh, and deservingly so. But my question is what they're going to do next year, especially in the quarterback room. I feel like Najee Harris having a quiet, 1,000-yard season is a plus for them. I feel like they can rely on it. They got themselves a back, so I feel like they're going to go in the right direction as long as they handle and address their quarterback room. Now on the flip side, Baltimore. I've been on record on multiple platforms since day one, week one. Lamar's the year. This is Lamar's year. I was saying it not even in an MVP sense. I was saying it more as him being Manny and finally getting over that Brady hump. Him finally getting over this hump I really felt like this was this year. And yes, Derrick Henry plays a big factor. I would be lying if I said, that he's not a big factor in it physically and, as far as play, but, they're just bought into it. There's nobody selfish over there. There's nobody, no me's. And then just quietly just go out there and do their job. But like you said, Mike, honestly, it's showtime now. This week coming up, this is what it's all about, right? This is what you play for. This is what you prepare for. This is what it's all about. All chips on the table for all the marbles. Great matchup. We all knew this was going to happen. And I think that they're ready. Buffalo, such a tough place. But listen, Baltimore, this is what I'm saying, the X factor as far as them buying into what's going on here. I feel like they go down there with their heads down, with their hard hats on. They got their boots ready to go, and they put up a fight. It's gonna be a great game. But man, it's Lamar's year, and I'm gonna say it until the end of the season.
This game was the second highest total for Derrick Henry's postseason rushing yards in a single game. Michael, what was the highest?
Yeah, he owes us after 2018, right? He was responsible for Lamar's second playoff loss.
Most embarrassing playoff loss, I think.
We only get 12 points. And I'm waiting to see if in any of these, we'll see if they have more than one game, that the Ravens might use that Derrick Henry jump pass. I'm convinced they were going to version against the Steelers in the first meeting, and then the timeout was called. two very quick takeaways. The Steelers, they should just blow it up. Mike Tomlin's so obsessed with having winning records and overachieving. They're not good. We knew they weren't good. I'm glad they were finally exposed as frauds. And then Lamar, if he really wants to jump to that next level, look, he's 3-5 in his postseason career.
Right.
But look at the team. I mean, Ryan Tannehill, C.J. Stroud, and Russell Wilson. He's not had that win where he's beaten a Josh Allen, a Joe Burrow, a Patrick Mahomes, a Jared Goff. This is just another prove-it moment coming up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think the biggest concern for me is still the committal to the run.
Yeah.
Because we see it, they outrush Pittsburgh 299 to 99. 200 yards on the ground more than Pittsburgh.
270.
But when the chips are on the table, can they commit to the run game? And we've seen it in the past where they haven't. And that's what holds me back from really believing in Baltimore, is that John Harbaugh has proven time and time and again that he will not commit to the run. And now you have a guy who was probably written off a little bit at the beginning of the year and has now stepped up and has proved himself. Are you going to make him hate himself on Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
Just sitting on the sidelines or sitting in the backfield waiting for Lamar Jackson to pass? Because Lamar was doing it with both his legs and his arms.
Oh, yeah.
But this is a team built on the ground. This is a team built on running the football. And you have that passing as a complement. It's awesome that Lamar can throw the football, and I would say he's escaped the running back quarterback allegations. He can fucking throw the rock, and he's worked on it for a long time.
Stud, man, stud.
And on the Pittsburgh side of the ball, I agree with Mike. It's not that Tomlin's a bad coach.
Right.
I think he would get picked up in a heartbeat.
Oh gosh.
Whatever happens if you fire him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just you need a change of scenery.
Oh.
I mean, the guy is. Ever since, honestly, Blake Bortles broke the Pittsburgh Steelers. He really did. Because they were, I don't know the stat on it, but I know their playoff defense was very, very good for a long time. And then Blake hung 44, 45 on him.
Mm-hmm,
and
45, yeah.
I think that was the first loss that started the losing streak, the 6 consecutive playoff game losing streak. So Blake Bortles, congrats, you broke the Pittsburgh Steelers. Including Mike Tomlin, it's time. You got to get a complete change of scenery here, and we all know. I mean, don't anyone defending Mike Tomlin, don't try and put this on the GM. Mike Tomlin signs off on every free agent. He signs off on every draft pick. He signs off on every single roster movement that has ever happened in Pittsburgh in the last 10, 15 years that he's been here. And again, he's not a bad coach. But the other problem with this guy is, look at his talent that he's surrounded himself in the coaching room with. Who does he have there? Who in the past has he brought in? He's brought in older guys that have already been proven. Has anyone under his coaching tree truly developed to succeed as a head coach? Is his coaching tree strong? Arthur Smith? I think that's probably one of the more notable guys under his coaching tree. I mean, it's not good.
Right.
It's not good whatsoever. You can't count the guys that have been in the league 20 years, and he's like, hey, come on, come do this. He refuses to adapt to the modern NFL. It's shown time and time again. They've been in this kind of Colts-like quarterback carousel. I mentioned it on the last episode, where they've struggled ever since Big Ben. It's time, man. I would consider bringing Russ back. I mean, if you can get him on a cheap deal, because who else is gonna pay Russ at this point? Russ was awful the past couple, down the stretch in the really important games. He was awful. He was not good. Justin Fields isn't a long-term answer. Where do you go from here? You can't draft a quarterback unless you want to make a trade, unless you really want to trade up. So I really don't know where you go from here if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers,
Right.
except maybe blowing it up and hoping you can get rid of Mike Tomlin. You can't trade him. Can't trade Mike Tomlin. He has a no trade clause. And yeah, you hope you get a top pick next year. Maybe you could maybe if you get Tomlin to waive his trade clause, but that would make absolutely no sense. Absolutely no sense, because you would be expected to give up 1, maybe 2 first-round picks for a Mike Tomlin, right? And why would he go to a situation where he would be losing 1 or 2 first-round picks? Absolutely stupid. So can him, get everyone out of the building, reset it. Reset the owners. I don't care. That's what the Colts need to do. All right, let's move on.
Arians,
Bruce Arians, yes, but
Don't take him away from us. What are you talking about?
No. He was under his coaching tree. Was he already in the league? Was he kind of established at that point when he was there? Because I think it was the mid
He's been in the
2000s.
league, but he was with Tomlin from the beginning.
Okay, all right.
Anyway,
Bruce Arians, congrats, Mike Tomlin.
Yes, Bruce Arians.
Good job. You have Bruce Arians and Arthur Smith. Who would have ever said those two would be in the same sentence or in the same tree? I didn't.
I'm happy we got the better one of the two on that deal.
That's true. Denver and Buffalo. This one kind of went how you expected it to. Well, I guess how it's gone for the Buffalo Bills in the wild card round in the last few years. You have a Denver team that came in, and you kind of thought they were gonna be throwing the football a lot. They were gonna be playing aggressive. I mean, they do the fake punt and it works, and you're like, okay, you let Bo Nix. I mean, this is where you throw the kitchen sink. This is a kitchen sink game. Playbook wise and play call wise, you get creative. You do stupid shit. You just see what works because you're going. I mean, what was the line here? It probably wasn't very good going into this. You're so outgunned. Just put everything there, and Sean Payton was shockingly kind of conservative at times, and I'm not really sure what McLaughlin was doing on that fourth down, running out of bounds. I don't know what happened there. You would hope maybe he lowers his shoulder or something, but he did take a hit to the head at the end of it too, I think, or was that maybe a different play? I can't remember. And Josh Allen is just. He's just Josh. He's unstoppable. He's marrying Hallie Steinfeld. He's going to at least the divisional round. He's going to play in probably one of the biggest games of the year. It's a great time to be Josh Allen right now. It's really great.
Yeah, I don't have too much on this game. Bo Nix was the leading rusher for Denver. I mean, they looked great. They had the long touchdown pass to Franklin. I mean, the Bills have been able to flex.
Only touchdown. Postseason touchdown from rookie to rookie.
Oh, wow.
I never would have thought that. But overall, I mean, this is, again, we were talking about this before the show, just 7 seeds. I mean, until we see a number 7 seed like reach a championship game, I think playoff expansion is really stupid. Denver, hey, it's great. They check that box. They get their first playoff appearance in Super Bowl 50. But they weren't ready, and it's hard to know what to make of Buffalo either. I think them and the Ravens did exactly what they needed to do. They had an inferior opponent on their turf. They ran the ball. Buffalo ran it 44 times. Allen was really efficient. He had that great touchdown pass to Ty Johnson. Great catch. Yeah, I mean, it's just more of the same in this round for Buffalo. They're 5 for 5 at home, wild card round under Allen, but it's like same thing. The Ravens, okay, great. That little fun game is over. Now go prove it.
Right.
Yep.
I think you hit it on the nose there with they're a little maybe like a year or two early, right? They're a good team. They surprised the hell out of me for one. And Sean Payton, he's always good for like a trick play there. Here and there, especially in playoff time, I feel like you gotta watch out for it.
I remember it well, Josh. I remember it really,
the fake punt on
really
Sunday,
well.
They had a fake punt. It worked, but then they didn't get any points.
Right, but I mean, yeah. So I mean, you're gonna have the defensive player of the year coming back, and Patrick Surtain over there, lockdown corner. You got a lot of pieces to play off of. Finally got a quarterback there. That's on the same page with Sean Payton. He talk about flowers, right? He's another one that I feel like at the beginning of the year was doubted on and just proved people wrong. I agree with you too, Mike. I don't feel like the playoff expansion should happen. I don't know why they would even consider that. I agree with that whole situation there. But the whole thing with the Bills too, yeah. Channels too, right? Channels.
That was perfect, dude. That was perfect.
Everybody was doing that. It would have been best if like the money signs would have come from the back or like flying money. Anyway, the Bills though, you hit it on the head with that one as well. But I felt like they kind of played down a little bit. Like the Ravens, like we like you said, we expected that to happen. It was good. I just felt like, man, I wanted a little bit more from the Bills. I mean, like you said, Alex, kitchen sink game. Wanting to see, I was just not fulfilled with them. It's just from my point of view. I understand, they had a good game plan and they executed it to, how they wanted to. But it was just, I feel like they played a little bit down to me. And Denver's on the right track, but Buffalo's in for a good game against Baltimore next year or next week.
What is this? Also, like 4 times in 5 years that the Bills got the 2 seed, and under the old format, they had to buy every single. And they won all the games. Would have had that week off, and last year they got decimated by injuries in that Pittsburgh game, and that lost them against the Chiefs. But they're healthy now.
No excuses. No excuses.
Yeah.
Also, me and Mike were talking about this. This is going to be a very short part of this game. First off, Damar Hamlin gave us a new meme format. Hilarious. His shot of him with his mouth open, like, oh my God, I can't.
I didn't see that one yet.
And people hate Damar Hamlin for some reason. I don't get it. The guy has literally done nothing. He died on the field. He's come back. He was a fringe special teams player. Now he's in the starting lineup in a playoff game, or he's pretty damn close to it. That's a feel-good story right there.
100%.
That should be on the cover of every fucking magazine.
Haters.
The guy is trying to get defibrillators into schools for kids. I don't get it.
I don't get why we're rooting for the Rams because something happened in their city, but we're not rooting for Damar Hamlin.
Right.
The most
Who
harrowing
died.
experience.
He died
on the football field. Yeah.
It's just fucking crazy. But him celebrating, I don't know why he didn't get a penalty for taking his helmet off. That was just that happened to DJ Moore. That happened to DJ Moore when he was with the Panthers.
Right.
Remember the Hail Mary?
Yeah.
And then it fucked him. They lost 15. Kicker missed the extra point. They lost in overtime.
Ouch! I forgot about that. Yeah.
I don't know why Damar wasn't flagged for taking his helmet off. They got special
the guy
Damar
died on the
flag?
field. They're not gonna flag the guy. The guy died on the
Don't
field.
flag him.
How are you gonna
And now
flag
it's-
him?
Damar and Lamar.
Oh, I like that. Good headline.
I'm also I just kind of realized I'm not a big fan of how the NFL scheduled this weekend. This past weekend they did AFC and AFC on Saturday.
Right.
They did the 3 and then 3.
Right.
Ideally, you want to see AFC NFC on Saturday. I don't give a shit what happens on Sunday.
Get rid of that word from your vocabulary when it comes to the NFL. They don't care about the fans' ideal.
That's very true.
What did you guys do earlier?
But even money-wise,
what did you guys do earlier?
I don't even know money-wise. That doesn't really make sense to me either. Like it doesn't. I don't know. It just the scheduling was completely. Yeah.
I mean, they did
dumb.
put the games in the slots they think are going to get right. So.
Packers, Eagles. Mike, you must be very happy. You were very low on the Packers, and
I thought this was the lock of the weekend. I mean, and obviously Green Bay got a bunch of injuries in this game too. I mean, I think the knock on Green Bay and Minnesota, it's funny because the NFC North, historically good year, and both teams are gone after the first weekend. And in fairness to the Packers, they were pretty beat up. Losing Christian in the game, they lose Dobbs in it. But I don't know about Jordan Love right now. I mean, he hasn't inspired a ton of confidence. He plays well late in the year. Game against Dallas, but he just didn't look right. He didn't look comfortable. He was a little bit inaccurate. I think the Packers have a lot of work to do. I think the only burst of life they had was Josh Jacobs.
Yes,
and my only takeaway from Philly is I think they looked rusty. I don't know if they look bad or they look rusty. Passing game totally off.
Oh yeah,
Hurts in the lineup. I'm not sure if that's just because they figured they'd run the ball. They got a break on the opening kickoff. It looked like the fumble was recovered by Green Bay. They go down and score, and that was they got one touchdown the rest of the game, and then the rest of it was Jake Elliott field goal. So I think the Eagles are, I don't know if they did anything to really tell us like, hey, we're really dominant or we can be really dominant. They used their defense to get by, but yeah, Green Bay totally outclassed. This is the second year in a row they were a 7 seed. They're still the only 7 seed to this point to win in 5 years. That's 1-9 for the 7 seeds. And look, they beat the Cowboys last year. It didn't say much. So,
that's a gimme, dude. That's a bye.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then look, they almost beat the Niners, and I think a lot of people, understandably, were high on them coming into this year. I was one of those people. But it was just a weird year. Love kind of battled a lot of injuries. The Packers kind of they couldn't beat the good teams. I mean, they went 0-4 against the top 2 teams in their division. Their only kind of notable win really was the Rams, and that was when the Rams were struggling. So I just wasn't impressed at all with. I really wasn't impressed with their team. Clearly, the Eagles were the better team, so it's all played out.
Yeah, defense was championships, right?
Yeah.
And they're definitely. I said on past platforms as well. They're clicking, and they've been clicking the past, in the right times is what I'm getting at. And the defensive line to the linebackers where it matters the most, in that box, in the trenches. They're starting to cause havoc, and I think if they can get that working, the back end is going to play itself out. That's my opinion on the defensive side of the ball for Philly. At the end of the day, I don't think the passing game is going to be there. Can we just get over that? You have, other than Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, like you have the MVP on your team. Like give this guy ran for 2,000 yards. Like stop trying to force feed these receivers when it's just not working right now. Mike, you said it, the right word. They're rusty. It looked rusty. It looked like somebody missed a few weeks. The timing wasn't there. It was just obvious. But don't force feed it. It's not that time right now. You look back at last year, what happened to Baltimore when you had Lamar force feeding throws. Don't run away from what got you here. Okay, don't run away from that. Stay true to your game, and understand what you're good at. And I think that once they figure that out, they'll be all right. I think you, on the flip side of the ball, you hit the head talking about their injuries. They've been fighting injuries all year. Green Bay has. I mean, from Jordan Love, receiving wise, everything. Watson, Tampa guy, shout out. He's been up and down, roller coaster. And when he was in, he was a roller coaster player. So it was just very inconsistent over there. I don't want to give this year as a fair shake for Jordan Love. But sometimes I feel like I'm a softie when I say that because, like, dude, you're in the NFL, like, everybody's an NFL talent, right? Everybody's an NFL player, so make do for what you got. But man, he had a tough hand. He had a real tough hand, and if it wasn't for Josh Jacobs, I don't know where they would have been throughout this year. Matt LaFleur, I've always been a fan of him. Head coaching over there. On the defensive side too, didn't Jair Alexander get hurt towards the end of the year, which was, that's a lockdown corner. One of the top corners in the league. So, young team. Can they bounce back is the question. I think they got a bright future if they can, because they're young, bright, good, strong nucleus. And they'll get it done. I think they'll get it done.
Yeah. My last thing I'll say, I don't know if you want to jump in, Alex. I was just shocked that 4 turnovers forced by the Eagles. They still had 4 first downs, fewer yards.
Wow.
They won defense. Zach Bonds had an amazing year, 5th-year guy, first year with the Eagles. He just seems to keep coming up with big plays. So there were opportunities for the Eagles to really turn this into a route, and they never did it.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not so down. I saw something. I mean, this is just ESPN putting out like the worst headlines of all time. I think it was like whatever show Kay Adams does with Paul Pierce. I don't know. Why is Paul Pierce talking about football? I don't know. Why are we talking about football? So. What do we know? We are still having. We still need Jalen Hurts to prove himself.
Right.
We're still doing this.
Why does he have to force it?
This is a running football team. You have Saquon Barkley. You give him the ball and you let him go, and then when you need it, you throw the football. Jalen Hurts completed 6 straight passes on his opening drive. I mean, he started out hot. He's got to prove that he isn't the guy. Honestly, he does. And this is, again, the Patrick Mahomes thing where they did enough to win. And you don't want to overextend yourself in the playoffs, and especially against a Packer team missing Christian Watson where they can't stretch the field, and then they lose Romeo Doubs after they pull within a touchdown. That's got to be deflating, man. I mean, this is – I'm not down on the Packers going into next year. I think this was a little bit of a weird year. You had Jordan Love kind of in and out all year. You had Malik Willis come in, and he played pretty well. And remember, these teams saw each other week 1 in Brazil. Weird start to the year. Horrible field. So I think this was more this was just this was a bizarre year for a lot of teams. You had San Francisco with that weird, just everyone getting hurt, can't keep consistency. Green Bay, it felt like whenever they would find maybe a little bit of footing, someone would get hurt, Love would have an injury, they'd lose some sort of big player. Josh Jacobs was the only string of consistency there. So I'm not worried about Green Bay. I think Philly's one of those really good teams that just they do enough, and that's all they need to do. They know it. I think now you're going in the divisional round. You're going to see them empty the tank a little more. This was also Jalen Hurts coming back after a concussion. He hasn't played in 2 weeks. Getting the rust off a little bit, getting comfortable. I'm not worried about the Eagles at all, and I'm really not super worried about Green Bay going into next year. Again, it wasn't good. I'm not going to say it was good from Green Bay. Not at all. When the missed field goal came after they had that drive, you had the fumble, and then I think it was a punt after that. Am I correct? Yeah, punt. And then they threw a pick. Okay, so towards the end of the half, you have the missed field goal. You thought, okay, we're okay now. Like, you're driving down, you're okay. You missed the field goal. That's a punch in the mouth that you really don't want. So this wasn't. I'm not down on either team. I think both teams come out of this season okay. I'm okay with Green Bay, and we'll see what Philly does. Commanders Bucks, the best game of the week. The Commanders get it done. I was happy. I love football. I think I say this about every Cinderella team, but football is good when Washington's good. Football is fun when Washington is good. You want that. And now Jaden Daniels, the fun thing about this Commanders team is you don't know what you're going to expect from them. They're going to go into Detroit. You don't know what you get. They might get bull rushed. They might get killed. They might lose 40-0. Dan Campbell might be like, we want to step on their throats and show them, yeah, he's a fucking rookie quarterback. He's still a rookie.
No.
Or you get Jaden Daniels leading him down the field in a comeback. Yeah. I don't even know how many points the Commanders have scored in the fourth quarter and late in the fourth quarter, especially this year, because they've scored a ton, and they know how to come back. They know just how to stay in it and peck at you, and they pester you, and they're like a bed bug, and then eventually they strike, and that's what they did. That's what they did against the Bucks, and it was pretty cool to see. I'm gonna be honest.
Come on,
Josh,
Alex.
I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Alex, why you say it so excited? Like
you guys have won.
Come on, don't be like that.
You guys have beat them. You guys beat them on the way to the Super Bowl. You won the Super Bowl. It's their time.
I get it, and you know what? Yeah, this one was a tough one because
Doug Williams, Jaden Daniels. I'm saying it.
No, I hear you, and honestly, like I said, it was a tough one to watch because I'm a fan of Jaden Daniels, honestly. I've gone on record and said that he's a stud and he's very Lamar-esque, very, very sneaky in the backfield. I mean, fuck, man, that fourth down or whatever, 2 or 3, we had him in the back and he just, I don't know. Anyway, the thing about it is Dan Quinn is one that we gotta acknowledge as well. When you talk about, we were talking about the Dallas Cowboys and their defense. When you talk about what he brought over there, he brought that mentality, that dog, that defensive mind, and everything over to Washington, and it's carried over into the offensive side of the ball. They're playing with a sense of urgency, which was the difference maker in this game, in my opinion. I think we played too comfortable. We panicked when the times were needed. It just didn't feel like we were prepared in a sense. But it could also be that, Dan Quinn was just that, his game plan was just that good. So, that's neither here nor there. I think that, listen, I don't think Detroit's defense has the firepower to withhold Jaden Daniels like that. That's going to be a nice little game to watch. They're a sneaky team. Momentum is key during this time of the year, right? How your team is vibing. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And from day one, I feel like they've been on the same page on a lot of aspects completely. Scary Terry has been somewhat of a revival year. It looks, Scary Terry of old.
Chris Ballard drafted Paris Campbell over Terry McLaurin. He said he likes Paris Campbell because he's fucking fast versus the kid from Indianapolis. Idiot.
So you know what I mean? And the guy turned out to be a stud, and he is a stud. And they got a great connection over there. Their chemistry is on point. When you can throw a ball 40 yards on point in the breadbasket with the defender hanging on your shoulder, that's chemistry, that's timing, that's something that that takes time in the offseason as well. So good kudos to them. Great game. The better team won. The better team won, and it is what it is. I just hate that we keep on losing at home, in wild card games. Yes, we're back, 4 consecutive division champion, but we got nothing to show for it. Our division is not that great to be like saying, "Oh my God, we went through the gauntlet." Relax, guys. So I just wish that we did more. I wish we were a little bit more prepared. I'm interested to see what we're going to do with Todd in that head coaching.
Get him out of there. Get him out of
there. I agree. I think that
it's time.
Some coaches are best coordinators, and he is one. Like I said before, Arthur Smith is one, and that's okay, and that is okay. Not everybody can be a head coach. So I'm with you on that. Let's turn the page. We got pieces. I think the injury to Chris Godwin, I'm sorry if I'm rambling real quick, but the injury to Chris Godwin, I hate to say this, but I think that the Bucks bought him with that. I think, and I say that in not in a disrespectful manner or in condescending. I think that his injury is going to let us be able to contend for him in the free agency is what I'm trying to get at, and he comes back. So my little 2 cents.
I feel like you did a good enough job covering. I'll just say I'm happy for the Commanders. This is the surprise team, the surprise turnaround story in the NFL this year, and I'm happy that one of these better record road teams that had to go on the road actually got it done. Nothing against the Bucks.
Right.
I mean, Baker Mayfield, like the actual numbers, he was very efficient, but
Right.
fumbles, we're going to remember. Bowles, I don't know. He's gotten them there. He wasn't the guy that they won the Super Bowl with.
No.
It's just been fun to watch for the Commanders, and we'll see. They're playing with house money at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, good for them. Good for them.
Yeah. Yeah, my path for the Commanders already died with the Packers losing. I thought there was a path for them to go to the Super Bowl, but I don't think it's going to happen. Let's go to Monday night. The just stinker. This one was bad, really bad. Rams just dominated. They absolutely dominated in Arizona because of the LA wildfires, of course. The Vikings looked like a team that celebrated their Green Bay win a little too hard. And then I said this on Threads and on Blue Sky, go follow us on there. And then Dan Campbell bit their kneecaps off when they weren't looking, and they just never got back up. They just never got back up from that. They were just, the best word probably lackluster, I think. Yeah, not good, man. It's the Rams. I don't believe. Why don't I believe in the Rams, Mike? Why am I now against the Rams?
You're a hater.
I don't know why you wouldn't believe in them. I mean, look, they're 3 years removed from the Super Bowl. They took Detroit to a 1-point game last year. They had 9 sacks. That ties a playoff record. Yeah, I know some of that's on Darnold. A lot of it's on the Vikings offensive line. If you go back to after the Vikings had a 27-10 lead on the Packers, they were outscored 73-18. Remember, Green Bay almost came back, 15 unanswered, 31-9 against the Lions, 27-9 last night. So and in that time, what is that? 1 offensive touchdown? Yes, they went for 2. So you could put a good deal of this on Darnold, but you can also say that they didn't run the ball effectively. The defense stopped forcing turnovers. I think the Rams, again, I said this at the beginning with the Chargers. Why are the Rams the sentimental team? I know they are the one that they had to move. I understand that they had to play the game in Arizona, but it just, this whole LA strong thing, and I don't know. Do we need to feel like we need to feel sympathy as humans for everything that's going on in LA, of course. But from a sports perspective, do we have to really tie this in? Because the Dodgers just won the World Series. They're set up to be a dynasty for a long time. The Rams won a Super Bowl 3 years ago.
The Lakers won the in-season tournament.
The Lakers won it, and they won it in 2020.
Yes.
I mean, this is not some underdog, fun little story. Look, in all seriousness, jokes aside, right? Kyrie Jackson passed away.
Yeah.
summer for the Vikings.
Yeah.
You didn't hear a lot about it. I mean, when it happened, he was a rookie. I understand he never played the NFL, but that's hard to
in the
deal with
locker room.
as a team too. That's one of your own family members. So my point is, it's like, yes, this happens a lot in sports. Boston Strong. The marathon bombing, hurricanes, shootings. We've seen things, and I understand that it's unifying, but I don't know. I'm going to sound like a bad guy for saying this. Can we separate it from sports? Do I have to feel guilty that I really want the Rams to lose? Not because there are wildfires, just because I'm tired of them and I don't want to see them, and I don't think we need them.
I actually have not, like, when Boston Strong was a thing, that was everywhere.
Yeah.
It was
Yes.
all over the stadiums, right? Like the Yankees put up the Red Sox B, Boston Strong. I think most of the people who were victims of the wildfires, they're not Rams fans.
Most of the people who live in LA,
it's not even a joke.
Rams fans.
I mean, it's not even a joke. Like they moved back from St. Louis just how long ago was that?
It was 2015. They should have played this game in St. Louis. That would have been awesome. I would have rooted for them if they played in the Edward.
That would have been awesome.
That would have been awesome.
On turf
but
and all that.
A lot of the people, there's just no connection. I think even people in LA will say that they just don't have a connection to the Rams. I mean, why do you think almost every home game for them is really an away game?
It is.
The Niners take over the stadium. It's red in there. There's just the fan base just isn't that interested in them. I don't think that's a bad point for you to say. That's just not. I think that's factual.
And Walker Buehler, Emmett Sheehan, and Gavin Stone of the Dodgers were at the game. It's like, oh, come on. The last thing anyone wants to see now are more Dodgers all over the place, too. And it's really easy, especially for me. I spent a few years out there, to really dislike LA, the way that they sort of view sports teams. So this was, I mean, it's tough. I don't really have anyone to root for in that Rams-Eagles game. Unfortunately, one of them is the NFC Championship. So
here's why I don't believe in the Rams. Besides, let's take away the Seahawks game, 30-25 with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. They had their big win again. They did win 5 straight games where they played their starters to end the year after their loss to Philly, 37-20. So they got killed. Saints, they beat 21-14. Buffalo, they won that weird one where everyone was just scoring. Matt Stafford took over. Okay, there you go. That one is like legit.
That was an awesome game.
They beat the Niners 12-6. They beat the Jets 19-9. They beat the Cardinals 13-9. I mean, what is there to hang your hat on when you're a Rams fan? Down the stretch, you are fighting for a playoff spot. You're fighting for your division, and you're barely beating these teams. I understand finding ways to win. I get that, but these are teams they should, especially if they put up 44 on Buffalo. You should be destroying these teams. These teams, you should be putting your foot down and stomping on their throat, so to speak. I mean, the other games, like they beat New England 28-22. They beat Seattle 26-20. The Vikings, they beat 30-20 earlier in the year. They beat the Raiders 20-15. There's nothing to hang your hat on here. There's nothing interesting. And if you think they're going to go in and beat Philly in the link, in the cold, after going from the Apple Store to the cold, I can't see it. I really can't see it happen.
Well, okay. So they are, 10-3 since they started 1-4. They also they came into the playoffs with a minus 19 point differential. So there's one thing that works in your favor. But to your point, 44-42, and then you win a 12-6 game. They have won games in different ways, whereas we can even say a team like the Chiefs, they've won so many close games, but they all kind of feel like the same game. So I give the Rams some credit there, and we'll talk about this shortly when we preview the game, but they got really run over by Philadelphia in that first meeting at the Apple Store. That was a complete domination. Just to wrap up on the Vikings, 14-4, all 4 losses to 2 teams, a real travesty that 14-win team had to be on the road in the wild card round. But it is, Sam Darnold turned into a pumpkin. The Vikings didn't really beat anybody. They didn't beat any of the elite teams this year. I know they beat Green Bay times. Houston.
It was a replay of 22.
Right.
Yeah.
We did the same thing.
He lost some money.
Yeah.
He lost some.
He did.
Yep.
He might go to Pittsburgh. I've been hearing Pittsburgh possibly.
Right.
JJ McCarthy might be ready to go, so we'll see. But Minnesota, they look like a team that celebrated 2 weeks too early. Mm-hmm. They thought Green Bay was their playoff game, and Dan Campbell went up. He bit their ankles on the way up. He took their kneecaps, and then he stomped on them and did his thing, and they literally never got up. That's literally what it felt like. as soon as they were celebrating and they sat down from their celebration, they're like, okay, time to get up for Detroit. Their legs didn't stand. They didn't go up. So, yeah, Minnesota. Our guy Serafino writes for us. He's a big Vikings fan. I just felt for him. He had such. Actually, he was very like they're frauds. He was very much. He thought they were frauds, but you're still a fan. You still buy in them. But
hey, Verse.
Let's go.
Real quick. Verse made a big time stamp on the game and a play for his defensive rookie of the year campaign. He was a stud. He played out lights out. And I hate saying that as a Gator fan, saying that as a former Seminole, but I give flowers where flowers are due. So there you go.
Deontay Johnson was waived by the Texans. I just saw that.
What happened to him? What happened to him? Anyway, he
didn't want to play. The guy just didn't want to play.
He went from being like the number one, I get it, Carolina, but dude, promising. I mean,
Pittsburgh. He was like he was next up in Pittsburgh, and it just never happened.
Getting waived by two back-to-back teams.
The Antonio Brown virus infected him a little too early. Just a little too early. All right, let's go to the divisional round games. We're gonna pick. You give me about a sentence on why you think that team's gonna win. Then we'll move on. Start off Texans Chiefs 4:30 on Saturday. It's hilarious. They're giving the Chiefs the early Saturday or the Texans the early Saturday game again. Kansas City sitting at 8-point favorites right now.
Yes. My sentence is Travis Kelce and not because of Taylor Swift. Chiefs.
I'm going to go begrudgingly Chiefs, but I have to go beyond a sentence on this. Chiefs 6-0 in the division round under Mahomes, right? Texans 0-5 all time in the division rounds. I'm just going to say that forget what the number is. I know 8 points isn't big. This would be, just in terms of context, I think one of the biggest upsets in playoff history. I understand that the Chiefs have played close games, all year, and everybody thinks the fairy dust is about to come off and that Houston's is, but Houston kind of being the scrappy team. But I just think, given everything that we've thought about the Texans up until this point, the Chiefs having the best season in terms of wins. Think about that, and think about what Mahomes has done in his career. Yeah. And for this to be his masterpiece in a year where he carried the team and did all this, and they're getting healthy. If they were to lose this game at home, where they haven't lost since Christmas Day 2023, I think there are a lot of reasons to feel like the Chiefs are the team with the most pressure on them this weekend. I'm begrudgingly taking the Chiefs because they won by 8 the first time. It's probably about how this game will shake out. But don't be shocked if they lost. Don't be shocked. That's all I'm saying.
I on the NFL one of the biggest upsets in NFL history. I got 3 that I think are maybe a little bigger.
I mean, there are a lot of massive. I'm just talking about in the kind of context of what Kansas City's trying to accomplish and what Houston has been in its franchise history. This would be a big moment. This would be the biggest game by far, bar none, in the Texans' history. Remember the last time they played there?
I agree with
you.
They
had a 24-0 lead. Chiefs outscored them 51-7. This is not that kind of Chiefs team that's going to do that. And I understand that wasn't C.J. Stroud, that was Deshaun Watson, and it wasn't DeMeco Ryans, it was Bill O'Brien. But I can't shake that Kansas City. This would shift the whole narrative of like Mahomes' career, at least temporarily, if he lost. It just would. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, that was a man. I remember that game. That Chiefs.
They made
Chiefs,
up the
Texans
deficit
game.
by halftime. They had the lead at halftime. It was 24-9.
Deshaun's used to happy endings. He had a bad ending that time.
That was a very sad.
I'm gonna give one answer. Andy Reid off a bye.
Yeah.
I don't care who you're facing. It's Andy Reid off a bye.
Good point.
Give me the Chiefs.
God, I hate
Commanders, Lions, Detroit 9.5. That's a lot of points for the Commanders. Even a team that can score late, maybe they get a backdoor cover. I like the Lions here. I mean, it's the fucking Lions. As much as I like the Commanders, they are just overwhelming. They are going to send the house on Jayden Daniels. They're going to put him under pressure. They're going to make him be a quarterback. They're not going to let him run around and sit back there all day. They're going to put all the pressure they can on him. They had been holding their blitz packages back. Now they're even getting healthier. I don't think there's not too many teams in the NFL that can beat the Lions.
Right. Anzalone coming back is huge on a defense.
He's back.
That's right. He's been back. So
he was already back.
Yeah. Excuse me. But just a huge factor in our defense. The X factor in this whole situation is that they're playing in Detroit, guys. Detroit has been waiting for this for how long, and it's just been just gone through the roof with excitement and just what they've been waiting for, and they're gonna answer. They're gonna answer big time. Jaden Daniels obviously is gonna produce and do what he does, but I think this is gonna be one in the trenches. I think Zadarius Smith has a big time play in this, and Branch in the backfield playing safety for Detroit is going to play a big factor. This defensively is just my little outtake because it just seems like the Commanders play into that part of the defensive strengths. But it's not going to be. First of all, I'll take those points. First of all, all day. Thank you for telling me that, Alex. And it's going to be one that I think it might go down to it, but I hate to say this, our fans were out of it by halftime, right? I felt like by third quarter, our fans didn't really give that home field advantage. Detroit is nobody's sitting there. Nobody's going to be sitting there. Everybody's going to lose their voice. Everybody's going to be wasted. Everybody's just going to be shirts off. It's going to be.
I'll probably be wasted when this game's going on.
It's going to be, oh man, as a spectator, as a fan, a dream come true scenario. So it's just, that's just too much to handle. In the Dome, that place is going to be rocking, and it's going to be a big factor.
Mike, before you get your point in, I just want to go over the who's returning. David Montgomery returned to practice this week. Terrion Arnold is full practice. Anzalone back. Jack Campbell back. Mick Robertson back. Khalif Raymond back. They think it's possible that Ennis Rakestraw can return. Am I correct about that? No, I'm sorry. Yeah, Rakestraw. They think he could return.
Okay.
That's big too. Another cornerback. They're getting help. The reserves are coming. The reserves are coming for the Lions, and that's scary because we know what they looked like against Minnesota.
I had such a bad week that trying to be wrong, I'm going to pick the Commanders with the points because everything seemed to tell you that the Lions should win. Commanders 31-16 all time against the Lions. That includes 3-0 in the playoffs. Remember last year, both Lions playoff wins were only by a combined 9 points. They beat the Rams by 1, the Bucks by 8. They actually, I don't know. I mean, the rust factor, like the Lions with a bye, that just doesn't sound. Those aren't two words that ever usually go together.
No.
Although in 91, they were coming off a bye and destroyed a young Cowboys team that would then go on to win 3 of the next 4 Super Bowls. Maybe this is kind of that same narrative. Maybe, Jaden and the Commanders become those
NFC East.
This team, right? NFC East.
Right. It's literally America's team. It's Washington. They are literally Oh, Mike, you have something here, man.
Yeah.
You have something here.
Yeah,
Put a future on the next 3 years. Parlay it.
Guess who Detroit lost to in that year's championship game? They lost to Washington.
Wow.
So I don't know. And that was the last time that the Commanders, then Redskins, won the Super Bowl in 91. So anyway, I'm going to say it as a backdoor cover. Nothing else. Like Detroit's up, like 38-23 late. Commanders get a late touchdown. A lot of history. Interesting. Just
very interesting.
But I always like pointing that stuff out in the playoffs.
Sunday, Rams Eagles at the Link. Philly sitting at 6-point favorites. I don't know if I like that line either. I feel like the Rams will keep this one. I mean, Philly likes to play close. So, Mike, you go first.
Hard for me to ignore the first meeting. The Eagles in that game outgained the Rams 481-290.
Right.
Tonight, that was just Saquon Barkley going off. 20 carries, 255 yards. That was a game that the Rams truly wore down in, that the Eagles did what they do best. This game won't be the same, though, because you know why? Because the game's in Philly, I think that gives the Rams an advantage because, playing in their house, I think controlled climate, whatever. I don't know what it is. I just have a feeling that we're not done hearing about this Rams team of destiny thing. I think we might hear about it for another week. If nothing else, it's going to be a really close game. I think just McVay, that calm that the Rams seem to have. And Philly, over the years, if Philadelphia gets into a little bit of a rut at home in a playoff game, I don't know if there's any team that would become more uneasy because of its fans than the Eagles. I feel like
Oh
the
gosh,
Eagles
yes.
up to a certain level in a game,
Oh gosh.
bigger the magnitude, they need to feel really like when they were playing San Francisco 2 years ago in that championship game, and then the Niners had all this. It was just piling on. The fans were getting revved up. The Eagles smelled blood in the water, right? But then you go back even to like the Andy Reid days. It was just there was this unease around the stadium, and the fans were groaning and getting restless, and especially at the old vet. The games would just sort of unravel, and you feel like because of that intense connection that the crazy fans of that city have to the team, that it does wear on the players if it doesn't go well. So if the Rams kind of withstand that early punch from Rocky, if you will, they stay in it. They're going to keep it close, unless Barkley runs them over again in the second half, and I'm totally wrong.
I think you gotta. I mean, I don't know how you don't lean on him again. Tell them to stop him. Tell him fucking stop us. We're gonna tell you where we're gonna run it, and we're still gonna beat you. He's still gonna beat you.
Fastball down the middle, it still gets by you. Yeah.
Please, I hate it when teams go away from the run. I hate it. It is one of my biggest pet peeves, just with coaches in general. Shane Steichen does it all the time with Jonathan Taylor. The Ravens historically do it. If they do that with Saquon Barkley, who just rushed for 2,000 yards, I will just turn the TV off. I will not watch.
Yeah, I want to play a little bit of a devil's advocate role here as well. I'm for Matthew Stafford. I feel like veteran, like you said, Mike. He's been here. He's proven. He's already got a ring, and he's proven it recently, right? Like you said, you're tired of seeing him there. I am too, but the guy is always going to figure out a way and make his team around him better. You can't take away Puka and Cooper on the outside. If they can get them rolling with a decent run game, watch out. But I hate to say this because I'm always saying that the Philly defensive side of the ball has been clicking. But I just feel like you mentioned it, I don't think the storybook ending is going to happen this week. I think this is a surprise game. I think that this is a game that shows how great we have it that Matthew Stafford's still playing. I feel like he's so underrated still. Just a great passer. Just guy's a competitor, I think he's gonna have what it takes to at least go down swinging up there in the league. Like you said, it's tough to play in Philly, whether you're losing or whether you're winning. So it's like, pick your poison. So the thing about it is, if they can get them on their side, the fans on their side. I don't know what the weather's supposed to be like, but that might play a factor in it as well.
Saying 39 right now, 39 and cloudy.
39 and cloudy. Okay, so I mean, not for nothing, but I mean, Matt's a Cali kid. I think been in indoor stadiums majority of his career. Granted, obviously he's won some big games in the cold, but they can use that in their advantage over there in Philly, as far as making sure he's always getting hit. Somebody always gets a hand on him. So it's going to be a good game in my opinion. But I'm with Mike in the situation where I don't think that book is ending this week, unfortunately.
I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna go with a little history here, and that's it.
I like history
because I do love the law of averages. I love it when things even out. Matthew Stafford is 4-3 in his career versus the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay.
In Philly, he's 2-1.
Come on.
He's due. He's due. That's all I'm gonna say. But seriously, I mean, the Rams just they haven't beaten anyone besides Buffalo, of course. Besides Buffalo, I do want to. That's obviously somebody. But when you have one real big win and in one of those games where the offenses are just going back and forth, it feels like that it's just impossible to stop the offense. That's just one of those games that just gets out of hand. There's no rhyme or reason to anything. That's what I thought when I watched it. I think I've done a pretty big heel turn on the
Rams.
Yeah, you have.
First playoff meeting since the 2001 NFC Championship game, which was Andy Reid's first NFC Championship game. That was back in St. Louis
Yeah. So give me the Eagles. I'm going Eagles still. I hate going chalk. But this is the toughest game of the week. This is the game where you don't know what's going to happen. Ravens and Bills.
Right.
I genuinely cannot pick this game. I don't even want to pick it. I don't know what the fuck's going to happen. I mean, Buffalo got killed in their last meeting, but that was in Baltimore. That was earlier. Those were two completely different football teams.
What's the weather
I'm
like
terrified.
Cold,
16 and cold, 16 and cloudy. I don't want to touch this. I have no interest in this game.
You're telling me, man. I mean, this was the spot last year for the Bills. This was that Sunday late game, CBS, prove it, beat the big quarterback. So I kind of see it as both of these quarterbacks have not really had like that signature win over another really great quarterback to this point, right? I mentioned it. And you kind of think about it with Josh Allen. He beat Lamar in 2020. I guess that's kind of his only one, right? So that's the only other time these teams matched up. But that was a weird game. That was 17-3, and there was a 100-yard pick six by Taron Johnson, and it was played in front of 6,000 fans. So that kind of gets forgotten. But the Ravens, I think they match up well with the Bills. I think that they are going to give a lot of different pressures. They can get after Josh Allen. It's really hard for me to pick this game too, because again, like I said, both teams have kind of been this like, got to get over the hump. So someone's going to do it. I guess just out of sentimentality, I'm going to take my team. I can't even go into too much analysis. It's going to drive me crazy. But guess give me the Ravens because that's what I'm hoping for.
It's a 1 point spread too.
1 point, and they started off as a dog, right? And now they're a favorite. So interesting. The betting public is shifting with Baltimore here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah. So obviously, where I'm going with this pick. Just before I say what I gotta say about the Ravens, the Buffalo, man, great season. I think what they need to do and the X factor on the offensive side of the ball is if they use a double tight end set. If they use a double tight end set, it takes away from them using a double spy. And I say that because when you use a double spy, Josh Allen obviously can run both ways, up, down the middle. So you really can't control him with one spy. So if we take a double spy in there, that takes away Marlon Humphreys or Kyle Hamilton down or whatever. So that's a big opening or a big hole that you leave in the defensive side. So I think that they will, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Dawson Knox and Kincaid are healthy and full goes. So look out for that matchup. I think that they'll exploit that matchup. And Josh, he's a veteran at this point. He's been there. He's been in big time situations. He's playing at home. He should feel comfortable. There's going to be snowball fights in the stands. There's going to be people breaking tables from the second story to the front. So it's going to be a whole situation going on up there. But Baltimore comes in, like I mentioned before, they come in with their briefcase. They come in ready. They know that they're there for business. They got one vision, one goal, and they know what they're walking into, right? They know that they got their work cut out for them. They know that they are going to be prepared on the opposite side. So it's going to be the team of discipline is going to be thing to watch out for here. Defensively, can Van Noy and the edge defensive lineman, can they control that outside and contain Josh Allen? And if that happens, I mean, Baltimore wins and wins in good fashion.
I love the actual football analysis. See,
sorry.
No, that's good. I'm saying it's good. And that, by the way, since the Ravens moved Kyle Hamilton to safety, they have turned into suddenly an elite defense.
Right.
So again, both teams this year, I think, are improved from last year, which is why both feel good about their chances to beat Kansas City should they meet in the championship game. Ravens' offensive line has improved.
Oh, yeah.
Defense playing well down the stretch. Buffalo was absolutely wrecked at linebacker in that game against the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
They cost them dearly. They're healthy. I just want to throw one more fun stat out there because I like this. So the AFC coaches, all four coaches that could end up in the conference championship game. So D'Amico Ryans is the only coach of the 8 that hasn't coached in one. Andy Reid, lifetime 5-6. So 4-2. John Harbaugh 1-3. Sean McDermott 0-1. So that's the AFC coaches that in the championship game history. The NFC, Sean McVay 2-0, Dan Quinn 1-0, Nick Sirianni 1-0, Dan Campbell 0-1. I don't know what that means.
Right.
Dan Quinn had a lead in a Super Bowl before.
What's that?
I don't know. I choose to not think about what happened after that, but I know
Dan
he had a
Quinn
lead in a Super Bowl.
28-3 lead in the Super Bowl. Yeah, and like I said, in fairness to Andy Reid, he is 4-2 I'm sorry, 4 and I get that right? Yeah, 4-2. Yeah, and he was 1-4 with the Eagles in the championship game. So in fairness, but interesting just that they bring these records in. We know that these coaches, some of them have been to the Super Bowl, but weird.
If you're Buffalo, you got to force the Ravens to throw the football. You have to give them no other option. And it's not that Lamar's a bad passer. It's, again, I think I said it earlier. It's just that's just how the Ravens win. You have to make them uncomfortable. They're more uncomfortable when they're throwing the football. When you have Lamar throwing it 40 times a game, you can't let him sit back there too. You got to put pressure on him. You have to make him uncomfortable. A lot of it's going to come down to, I think, a lot of the pressure that Buffalo is going to get on Baltimore, and on the other side. Baltimore needs to limit those big plays. That's how Buffalo really gets you. Are those long, deep passes from Josh Allen, especially where you don't expect them, like late in the half, right? They basically, you think about it, they steal points. That's how everyone describes it. They're stealing points. Like you got 30 seconds to go, and it's 2nd and 5, and Allen launches a 45-yard bomb, and no one's ready for it. No one's back there. And that's where you get fucked. That's where a lot of teams get fucked. It happened to the Colts. He had a long pass that ended up, adding 3 more, which the Colts got their asses kicked in that game. But it doesn't matter. I think that's just forgotten at this point. People don't even mention it. They just think of them as the Buffalo Bill, like, last year's Bills. I feel like I haven't heard that much from Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
Am I crazy?
Right.
Not much.
Right.
I would like to hear some more. Buffalo they need to start getting Amari Cooper the ball a little bit more. But I think I want to go with the Bills here. I think I picked them to go to the Super Bowl in our bracket, just based on matchups. I like Buffalo. I really like Buffalo here. I think they finally have to do it. Like this is it. You have historically 15-win teams suck in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
They're vulnerable. The Chiefs are vulnerable.
Does it almost feel like this is the AFC Championship game? And it's like sacrilegious to say that.
Right.
The Chiefs are 15-1 and probably going to be home anyway for the championship game, but it almost feels that way.
Oh yeah.
But the thing with the Ravens is the tone of their games always seem to be set very early. When they get it going, they are almost unstoppable. When they fall behind,
you need to get them in a hole.
Right, that's what happened against Tennessee in that game in 2019, against Buffalo in 2020. It's what happened last year against the Chiefs. And then their other playoff wins, it's like it's about who gets control early in that game. And again, I still have not felt super comfortable at any point with saying, like, okay, the Ravens are going to be in one of these shootout back and forth games, and then they're going to have to make the play at the end. They've never really convinced me that they can do that, especially on this stage. So that just adds to the importance of making plays early, controlling the tempo with Derrick Henry. But they're going to have to score points, and they do need Zay Flowers back. They really do. They didn't need him against the Steelers because they could run, but they're going to need some explosive plays in the passing game. They're going to.
My final thought on I think this relates to Eagles Rams too.
Jerry Springer. My final thought. No, sorry. Go ahead. It's an old record.
I got you.
I picked it. Get fat. I think for Buffalo and LA to win these games, you need to get fast. You need to get started fast. You got to get aggressive. I would love to see from both teams just a 20, 25, 30-yard shot first play. You get them on your heels. Yeah. Get the Eagles fans turned against the Eagles immediately, because that's what they do. They immediately turn on them just as quickly as they'll turn back. They turn on them immediately, and then the Ravens again. Michael, you have said it all year. Said they can't do it from behind. They can't do it from behind. Punch them in the mouth. See if they can handle it. If they can't handle it, I mean, this game will suck if they can't handle it. But I really like Buffalo. Yeah. I just want to see I can just see Josh Allen just throwing a fucking laser, an absolute laser to Curtis Samuel across the middle that goes for like 25, 30 on the
Curtis Samuel.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen,
he had a 55-yarder against Denver that basically ended the game.
Right. And to be fair, at least, think about the last two of the last 3 playoff losses, not on Josh Allen at all. Played
right.
one of the best games ever in that crazy loss. 21 last year, the linebacker position killed him. The offensive line didn't help him out. Stephon Diggs didn't help him out. It's not that Allen hasn't done his part in the playoffs. Lamar is the one who I think needs to prove it more. But the Ravens are going to have the tougher road because they have to go to Buffalo and then to Kansas City most likely to win the AFC, whereas Buffalo could win this game at home and then
Hey, just real quick. I know, Mike, you touched on it, but you guys said 16 degrees?
16, that's saying on
and
ESPN.
Zay Flowers has a, hamstring? You know what I mean? So that's something to look at.
But yeah. From Fort Lauderdale, you'll be playing in Buffalo.
You know what I mean? So that's something. Hey, no, that's real. That's real though. And how do you stay warm? How do you keep that muscle? Just something to think about. But yes, you guys talk about big plays. Mike, you talked about Zay Flowers. I think when you talk about big plays for Baltimore, you have to mention Zay Flowers, or Bateman. So I think you guys are spot on with that. Who is going to make that big play? And I think that might be the difference of the game. You talk about momentum switch, momentum change, and stuff like that. So I think how they treat and how they manage Zay Flowers is going to be crucial.
Yeah, Bateman's had a nice year, but he's only had one game where he's topped 100 yards. I don't know that he's a guy that's going to take the top.
Exactly.
At least have that threat. I know they like to use the tight ends over the middle, but that would be a big loss if Harbaugh's just not letting on much right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. That's a good place to stop. Good place to wrap up. That was a long one. I'm glad. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Go check out the Kablumski Sports Show. Go check out Spring Hill Sports Cards of the 4 Downs podcast over there. You'll see Josh on there a lot. Josh, give us, who's your Super Bowl winner?
Baltimore Ravens by 13 against anybody that plays them.
All right. Mike likes that one.
Mike, you a Baltimore fan?
I am.
Nice.
I am.
Okay, cool.
I pick the Ravens to get there, but I would pick Detroit.
Yeah.
By 5 in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Lions, Ravens.
All right. Again, thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Next week's episode will drop on Thursday with Griffin Prock from the show is called Show About Sports. Go check that out. And we will see you next week.
Thanks, guys, for having me.